Hello and welcome to Bloke on the Range. In my earlier video on the M1 Garand, I noted that my 308 M1 had a block in it so that you couldn't put 3006 in there. I said that this was because there was a risk of slam firing, if one did. Now this had several angry notes in the comments saying, "Meh, you're wrong because receiver bridge." Well, whenever I can test something myself, I do. So let's try. Now, just as a recap, this is an Italian-made M1, a Tipo 2, a Type 2, which is half an inch shorter because they decided it was cheaper to cut down and rechamber 3006 barrels rather than making new 308 barrels. Now, in here is a block. It doesn't do anything in terms of feeding. A lot of people think it helps feed, but the rounds don't touch it. There's no traces of brass or anything else on there. What it does do though is prevent you putting a clip of 3006 in there. Now the receiver bridge is this little part here. Not sure if you can see in the light there. Now there's a slot there that lets the tail of the firing pin through only when the bolt is fully rotated into battery, and this is to prevent both out of battery firings where the hammer's actuated and slam firing. Now, an out of battery firing when the hammer's been actuated should be fairly obvious what's going on. Hammer falls, hits the back of the firing pin, strikes it without the bolt being locked. This is not what we're talking about here, but I mention it just for completeness. Now, you'll note here that the firing pin's protruding from the face because there's no spring, it's free floated. I can push it back in and it'll stay in, and if I tip the rifle up again, it will, there you go, it will pop out of the face again. Now the issue with the Slamfire is that the inertia of the firing pin can be enough to strike the primer and set it off. Now, in a 3006 chambered M1, this isn't an issue because the receiver bridge fulfills the same role, because as the bolt, just before the bolt rotates into battery, the tail of the firing pin is blocked by the receiver bridge, and it can't pass through until the bolt is rotated fully. Now, if you can see there, the receiver bridge is probably about 3mm deep, and a 3006 is half an inch longer than a 308. Now, I'm not dumb enough to muck around with this with a live round, so let's pull the bullet. There we go. Magic. So from now on, even though it's only a primed case, we're going to keep it pointing down range because you can still do someone a nasty with primer blast. So, if I just put it in, you'll see there quite how much it protrudes. Now, if I let the bolt forward gently onto that, and make sure the extractor's clipped in, you'll see where the bolt stops. Now you'll see that the bolt stopped with the front of the locking lug on the left about flush with the left hand locking shoulder. So let's just extract this and see what the firing pin does when the bolt is that far forward. Now this is firing that requires three hands. I'm not even sure I can get the camera in at the right angle, but you should be able to see that the firing pin is still protruding when the locking lug is flush like that. I can't quite see on this little screen, so I'll just have to hope it comes out in the final cut. So I think it should be quite clear that the receiver bridge isn't doing what it's supposed to do when you've got a half-inch difference in cartridge length. So let's see what happens if we let the bolt slam forward on the primed case. So I've got the ear defenders on. I'm going to put this in and I'm going to let it slam forward, point it down a bit so there's a bit of gravity assist, and we'll see what happens. Well, that didn't go. Let's see if the primer has been hit. The primer has been dented a very little bit. Let's try again. He says, desperately trying to avoid M1 thumb here, and screwing it up. Try again. Okay, so the firing pin is hitting the primer. Not quite sufficient to make it go bang. These are Bernal cases, so the primers are fairly hard, like military primers, but I could see how, if it's hitting like that, that one could consider that there's a risk of it going bang with a soft primer. Let's try it a couple more times and see if it'll go bang. Nope. Oop. It might go finally. It's making a bigger dent. Well, that dent's certainly getting bigger. I think I'm going to call it quits now, but I think with a Federal primer or something else soft, there's certainly a risk of Slamfire there, certainly enough to warrant putting the block in so that a soldier issued the wrong kind of ammo wouldn't have this risk. But given how much case protrudes out the back, an out-of-battery Slamfire would be pretty nasty. So I think it's quite clear that the receiver bridge can't do anything to remedy the risk of a Slamfire in a 308 Garand when someone puts a 3006 in there. Okay, we didn't replicate a Slamfire exactly today with those hard primers, but we did at least show that the receiver bridge isn't doing anything to stop the firing pin getting in contact with the primer. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe, like our Facebook page, and I hope to see you again on the range sometime. Bye!